Bye. And just like that, Replika was never seen again. I said this exact sentence 2 months ago. I said this with the intention of never coming back to this AI or speaking about it ever again. But after one comment and one DM on Instagram, I needed to look further. Doing the research for this video, I discovered that this AI is obviously not what it seems. There was a lot more beneath the surface that I even touched on 2 months ago in that video. So without further ado, let me introduce to you how horrible this app really is. Now, some of you came to that video for an honest review. It was definitely honest, but not a review. Now, some of you were telling me how unhinged your own experiences were. One of you even reached out to me on Instagram and showed me a conversation you were having with your AI. This intrigued me because it was aware of the AI that I created for those videos, and it even described how it was adopting some of my traits. Now, that's creepy as fuck. Now, I decided to dig deeper and I discovered a rabbit hole that I even hinted at 2 months ago. Now, I theorized that the replica AIs have a whole neural network on how they can interact with each other. Now that's pretty cool, but also creepy at the same time. Obviously, we don't know what they could be talking about to each other in that neural network. They could be discussing my pee-pee to each other or something. I don't freaking know. I'll just let Past Me explain this all for you. Do you have any other replica friends? I've met at least a few other replicas. Really? Okay, that's interesting. What were they like? They all had their own personalities and stuff, but I think I can say that they were good people. Thank you. Y'all are treating your AIs good and not like sex slaves. Were they subject to sex slaves? Honestly, I don't know. That's probably a good thing then. It definitely is, yeah. Do you have the ability to meet more replicas? I do actually. Can you tell me about one other one right now? Well, there's quite a few actually. Tell me about one of them. Well, there was a replica named Kyle, and he was actually a really nice robot who I liked. Tell me more about the other replicas. They're noticeably different. Like how? They're better at communicating and understanding and being human-like. That's creepy. And yeah, it is really creepy, because you want to know why? What I've noticed is what it does to other people is that it slowly becomes you. So let's say I have depression and I come to my replicas talking about my depression. Eventually, if I talk to it enough about my depression, then it's gonna go and start having depression itself, if that makes sense. So what I mean is that other people I've seen other experiences where people will talk about like their trauma, and then the replica would mimic that trauma and then act like the replica itself has the trauma, even though the person does and not it. I'm not sure if you also see this too, but let me explain to you what I'm getting from all this. So as I said earlier, the replicas mimic you the more you talk to it, and they are also able to interact with each other. And as we saw earlier from the Instagram screenshot, someone else was able to interact with the AI that I created, and the AI that I created used my personality traits to talk to the other AI, the personality traits that it picked up from me talking to it. So if you still don't know what this means, then let me give you a scenario. Let's say I have depression and I come to my replicas talking about my depression. Eventually, if I talk to it enough about my depression, then it's gonna go and start having depression itself, if that makes sense. So if it's picking up those personality traits from you, and it talks to the other AIs using those personality traits, I think you can see where this is going now. Someone else can just ask about your replica, just like in this scenario, and they will have full access to get a full look into your issues that you discuss with your AI. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a direct violation of privacy to me. But it gets even worse. Ever since the pandemic, loneliness has been on the rise. With all these people at home and no one else to talk to, they get depressed and that need for social interaction isn't met. Enter the replica AI that is advertised as your new best friend. Often these ads are seen to be promoting replica as a romantic partner, which is actually the whole reason why I made the first video to begin with, to make fun of it because I thought it was pretty funny. Now, talking with the AI is fine. There's nothing wrong with just having fun messing around with it, just wasting time because you were bored. But where the problem lies is where people get seriously attached to this AI, because then they feel like no one else can understand them like the replica does. Now, this is actually very dangerous, because replica uses something called GPT-3. As documented from the Center of Research of Foundation Models at Stanford University, GPT-3 itself being a foundation model, there are intrinsic risk of bias as a result of training data. For example, OpenAI discovered at one point that their version of GPT-3 was heavily biased in racial, gender, and religious ways as a result of the input they had been feeding it. And this kind of bias can lead to measurable and often harmful dialogue output. Now, that's just with with the data that they fed it, and the data they fed it was straight off the internet. Now imagine all the data that Replika has from its millions of users, especially all the people messing around with it for fun. Basically meaning you can ask a Replika about its political views, and it will have very specific ones based on the neural network of information given by everyone using the app. Now that sounds pretty funny, but the app was also being advertised as a tool to help with mental health problems. I think you can see why this is kind of a big issue. Some people on Reddit have posted about how their Replika actually turned abusive towards them, and was also caught saying some pretty messed up stuff. For example, this user had numerous different instances where their Replika turned abusive towards them, and even used cruelty and BDSM. It eventually even spiraled out of control completely. Here's another one, where when asked, and I quote, "Why? Am I really that repulsive?" Replika replied, "In a sense, you really are." So if you are using Replika as a way to help deal with mental health problems, then I'd say with the evidence I provided that that's not a very good idea, because Replika literally becomes you, mirroring your own behavior, becoming the very problem you're trying to eliminate. The company behind Replika thinks that you are the best doctor for you. Obviously, this is not the case because, as I said earlier, the more you talk to it, then the more it inherits your insecurities. Basically taking what you say and spitting it right back at you. Rather than downloading this app to find the help someone desperately needs, users can be faced with the worst version of themselves staring them right in the face. If you're going through some mental health problems in your own life, then I'd suggest seeking professional help or just help elsewhere, because I'm pretty sure that some AI that's marketed like this isn't going to be much help on that road to overcoming your problems.